allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. I have a note from Mr. Huffington. We need to add, between A and B, we're going to add a Natipus presentation, so we're going to make a note there. And I'll entertain a motion in a second to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Thanks, Sue. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Drew. All in favor? Everyone? And I'll turn it over to Mr. Huffington for some recognitions.
Yeah, there's a couple of recognitions for some of our staff and students. Mr. Kemp's not able to be here tonight. He was named Missouri Association of Secondary School Principals Consummate Professional of the Year. This is a very prestigious award, one of the highest awards MOASAP provides for their staff members. So just want to congratulate Mr. Kemp. He's actually at that conference receiving that award this evening. We also like to recognize students Grace Sears and Michaela Borland, who placed first in state for DECA, which is the Distributive Education Clubs of America, and they are heading to Atlanta for nationals. So very prestigious honor for them. And then Anna Gustin qualified for national for debate and dramatic interpretation. So also going to nationals. So pretty impressive. Some of our students and staff. Just want to recognize that.
Awesome. Thank you. It's always great to hear that. To start off the agenda, we have somebody who'd like to speak to the board, Mr. Seth Goodson. Mr. Goodson, we allow some time for you to speak. Please try to keep it to 5 minutes.
Perfect. So, board, thank you so much for having me here tonight. My family and I, we moved here about a year and a half ago, and we homeschool our kids, and so I wanted to just kind of open up the conversation about homeschool kids playing sports. Since moving here, I've talked to faculty, I've talked to members of the community, just trying to figure out what's the path forward. Is this an option that we could potentially open up for kids here? And a path that would honor the school, what you guys are currently doing, working with homeschool families as well as fall under the MSHA requirements. I've spoken to the ADs at both Odessa and Warrensburg, who both those school districts allow their homeschool kids to compete. And I really wanted to listen to what were their concerns. What's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them, what's things that we can look at circumspectly and say, what could we add or do to possibly open this opportunity up? A little background, my wife and I both went to public school, played college sports. We had all intentions of putting our kids in public schools, but we've traveled overseas, we've traveled around the country quite a bit. So for our family dynamic, it was best for us to homeschool. We also have 10 kids, so it's a little bit of a crazy dynamic in our house, but we always wanted to give our kids the options of sports, and there's a point where kids kind of age out of rec leagues. There's just not a lot of options. Then they have to move into clubs, and our kids have done club sports. Those cost thousands of dollars, especially over the years. And so I wanted to kind of go, okay, let's look at this and what can we take into consideration? What are other school districts doing? And when I looked at this and I talked to both the Warrensburg and Odessa school districts, they had a couple of requirements that they require. Of course, living in the school district, your taxes go to your school taxes go there. They ask for a two seats time classes, either elective of core or core, and maintain passing grades in a curriculum submitted at the beginning of the year to say, okay, here's what we do. And, I asked a lot of questions because, growing up, I kind of had the perspective that homeschool kids stay in pajamas till like 3 o'clock and they eat and sit outside and look at nature, and that's homeschool, But now that seeing my wife, what she's done over the last several years, how hard they work, I wanted to ask, because I know that's the reputation a lot of times in people's minds. It's okay, what have you ever had an issue where you felt like a parent was under-educating their kid? What did you do in those situations? And they actually said they've never had one of those situations arise. They felt like the homeschool kids did really well. They came in, they interacted with the students really well. And some of the things, they had one young lady who played soccer. She did weights, one other class. And got to play soccer. I've heard, and I don't believe Grain Valley allows homeschoolers now, but they at one point did. And that's kind of how their soccer program got started, because there's a couple of families that had kids that played soccer. And, just to be clear, I'm not asking for my kids to, or any kids, to be given a spot on the team. I want them to have to compete. I want my kids to have to come, try out, and if they make it, awesome. I know that they can add value, but I also know the value that's added to them by coaches coaching them, interacting with other kids. And, if they don't make a team, that's okay by me. That's okay by a lot of homeschool parents that I've talked to, because those are those situations where you get to work with your kid and saying, hey, not everything's given to you. You're going to have to go work and try again next year. And so we're not asking for our kids to be given a spot. We want them to work for it. We want the opportunity to work for it. Currently, I actually have a child that has speech classes here at the school. That opportunity was opened up to him. Great resource for him. It's really helped him a lot. And so just to kind of finalize this is, I'd like to ask those same type of resources to be opened up in sports for our kids. There's a lot of value that the school brings. We see it. We interact with a lot of the kids that are here at the school. Great community that we've enjoyed being a part of. We moved from California, so quite a difference in education in the school system. So we really appreciate that. And we'd love for our kids to be able to interact as much as possible, but also have the opportunity to compete for a spot on the team. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? We have a presentation from Navitas. Thank you, Mr. Goodman.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you. I think a couple new faces. My name is Ryan Terry with Navitas. With me is Garrett. He's a little bit of a new face to most of you. He's taking over for Bobby as your energy manager. So as this is pulling up, I thought I'd just review really quickly kind of where we're at. We're at year one of our performance period, I guess is what you would say. About 2 years ago, we started this process of designing energy project and construction project. So I thought I'd recap real quickly. You can go to the next slide, Tom, when it comes up. So this is just a quick recap of what we did. Really what we focused on in our project was anything, and as we worked with the design team on the bond project, we really kind of took over the energy portion of, or anything that would really save energy is what we focused on in our design efforts and implementation efforts. So these are the kind of things that we did: lighting, heating, and air conditioning systems, a lot of building controls, and then just tightening up the building and optimizing the buildings. I know there are a couple new faces on the board. Is there any desire to kind of go back and talk a little bit more about what we did, perhaps?
No, I think
Okay.
we heard it before.
Okay. So quick kind of where we're at. So before the project started, we evaluated utility bills to just kind of gauge where you're at. And so you guys stood about 66 kBTUs per square foot. The kBTU is just, we boil electric and gas down to a unit of energy, which is kBTU. And so your district stood about 66 kBTUs per square foot, which was a little bit high compared to what we typically see. And so through the first year, able to achieve about 41% reduction in energy. Next one. So building by building breakdown. You can kind of see the big one there is the middle school. That is what we expected. We saw a lot of inefficiencies at the middle school, and we're able to decrease energy consumption quite a bit.
And that's before changing it back to gas, right?
So that is not gas yet.
That's not
so
gas yet.
so that would be
More comes, what I'm trying to say.
right. So that's something that we have discussed at some point that we'd be happy to look at. And we owe you that still. That's the last piece. We have now a year of data, and so that's we need to run that analysis to understand. Now that we're through this heating season, for the most part, we can evaluate how much electric energy went to heat, and then if we could convert to gas, what that would financially, how much better it would be. So we will, we owe you that analysis. So this is maybe a lot of information, but I thought it would be useful to share kind of where you were at. And so all of these bars, this is all utility spend. And so some of this information is just from your ASBRs. But then we evaluated 2017, 2018, and 2019 utility bills before the project. And so then the rest of those, again, are just ASBR. But just to get a history, and I kind of want to show, it's pretty typical, right? You have an inflation of about 3.5% or so. Often you see a little bit of a jump if you add square footage, but that's pretty normal when what we see in Missouri schools. And so if you continued that escalation with no changes, we'd expect it to, again, kind of go about 3.5% or so. And so the hashed gray is what it would have been. So the green is, the darker green is year one, is this year of how much savings we achieved, so quite a bit. You want to hit it one more time. So in addition to that, this year we got just 1 year is $112,000 rebate for all the things that we did. So it's actually quite a bit more for the first year. So pretty big difference between what it would have been and what it actually is. So one more. So what that equates to, I think we had projected around 15 years of between $3.8 and $4.2 million of savings over a 15-year period. But if we continue the trend, not counting the rebate, of course, but if we continue the trend, we would expect closer to $6.3 million. And so I guess one of the things that we wanted to say is we feel like we're pretty good. We pride ourselves in being pretty close to our projections. We're actually way past that. And one of the big reasons why is because you have a great staff. So the staff has really bought into this program. Jeff Webster and his team, they've really done a great job of when Garrett and when Bobby and when our engineers have looked at how you've operated your buildings, he's very receptive and has worked great with our team to say, yes, I agree, let's try this out. And we tinker a little bit. And so there's always little gremlins in the control system that you have to work out in any construction project. And we always do that in the first year. And I think Jeff is a huge reason why this first year has been so successful. Often we'll see this kind of success in year 2 or 3, but because he's really been helpful, this first year has been great. And we never want to sacrifice comfort, and so I hope that he's been cognizant of that. And as we've talked, at least he is cognizant with us of making sure that we maintain building comfort. But it's little things like, if the building control system is programmed by default to start heating at 3 or 4 in the morning, if it's 50 degrees at night, you may only need to take 20 minutes to heat the building back up to temperature. And so that's one of the things that he's helped us kind of tinker over time over this last year. And he's tinkered himself and kind of given us some ideas like, oh yeah, well, let's check the data to see how that looked and see if it was efficient. And so he's been great to help us get and achieve as good as we have. And so for us, I guess we wanted to thank you guys and thank Jeff for his help, because it helps us as we talk to other school districts to show success, and that if we can partner together, we find huge success in this kind of program.
So all the projected cost savings are based on the actuals prior to anything being done. So at what point do you start to project based on the current costs? The cost of doing the work that's been done, and then from when does a new baseline, I guess, get set?
Well, if I understand your question, so the gray hashed lines is just based on historic, right? Right. And so the green is actual. Okay, so this one right here is actual. And so these lighter greens so next year we would come in and show what it actually is. And so I just escalated that green the same percentage as what these is. But I thought it's useful to see, sure. Out here in year 15, it will be pretty close to what your baseline was, but that's because of inflation. Right. And we are in a lot of inflation right now, of course. Right. And so there may be a jump. This next year it actually may be up here because of 7 or 8% cost of inflation. But so it may be here, but the difference between this and this is not really your savings. It's really between here and here. Does that make sense? And so the reason I show this is just to show that your cost of energy will continue to go up. You may get more square footage, but I think it's useful to show. Maybe go back a couple slides, Tom. One of the things that we maybe to this one. So you added, I think, about 15,000 square feet to the high school, and you still went down pretty significantly on the energy used per square foot. So we didn't discount that. You will use a little bit, maybe 5 or 6% more energy for that square footage, but we still decreased quite a bit at the high school.
Are the rebates from the utility company?
Yes, from Evergy.
And that'll just be a one-time deal?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe go through those, and I think I have one more slide in here. So this is just kind of a summary of the energy units. The goal from what we had in the contract of what we thought we would get, the projections, we thought we would see, for example, kWh electric energy at 27%. Electric demand is just the spikes in demand. We usually don't take a lot of savings on that because it's really hard to manage. Again, something that Jeff has helped us out a lot on, and actually something that we're working on.
Yeah.
So at the middle school, we don't want to see all the units spike on in the morning at the same time because that can set the demand for the day. And so that's something that Jeff and Garrett have been working on.
Yeah, we've been looking at which areas need to come on earlier in the morning, which ones can we delay a little bit to try to manage those peaks a little bit.
Yeah. So the goal before of 27% of electric energy, and we're at about 47% on electric energy is what we actually achieved. So we were hoping for about $157,000 of savings, and we actually received about $280. If you include the rebates, closer to almost $400. One thing I would point out is the water consumption is a little bit lower than we wanted to see. Yeah, that water is highly dependent on usage, and we did measure the units that we put in. They do use less water, but that can vary quite a bit depending on consumption. So that we wish they were a little bit more. We've checked those units to make sure they're running correctly, but we're not getting as much savings on that side as we want. But way overachieved on electric, and that's what we want to see. So as we told your administrative team, is we want to actually improve on this next year, and we typically do see that year over year. It'll be hard to do that, but that's our goal, is to optimize as much as we can. Anything to add?
The water consumption, that's just during your units?
No, that's across the district.
It's everything?
Yeah, correct.
So, I mean, you may not even be accountable for some of that loss.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. So that is one that's pretty empirical, actually, to measure. We measure the units that we replaced before and say, okay, it's 3 gallons per flush. Then we replace the one after, and okay, it's 1.5 gallons per flush. And so we know those units are consuming less, but you're right, could it be more irrigation? Could it be just more consumption? It's hard to say. So one of the things that we do is we do want to empirically measure as much as we can. And so again, with your administrative team, we went through that detailed report, we call it the measurement and verification report, of where we empirically measured as much things as we could, the efficiencies of the units that we replaced, efficiency of the lights that we replaced, water fixtures, and so on, just to say as much as we can, these are the units, this is the measure before, this is the measure afterwards, to make sure that what we installed was accurate. or that we're getting the savings that we thought we would get. And then kind of as a separate task, we want to see how that translates to utility bills. And it should translate to utility bills, and we've seen that.
Well, I must tell you, I was skeptical when you said you could pay for this thing in 15 years. You made me a believer.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks.
Sounds very well, thank you. Any other questions? Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion and a second to approve the Navitas presentation.
I'll make that motion.
Jeremy, have a second?
Second.
Jim? All in favor?
Thank you, guys.
Have a good day.
Next on the agenda is our construction update.
Just phase 2 is moving along. I think for the most part, the demolition's been taken care of. Started to see some base put down today, hopefully pouring a new concrete pad. Utilities are coming along. We have had a few unforeseen circumstances we've had to deal with. Fire line had to be rerouted, but that's pretty well expected in older buildings, and some beam issues. But phase 2 is moving along, wrapping up, hopefully punch list items phase 1. Mr. Tripp, any addition on any of that?
No, still fighting issues with phase one punch list, so we'll get them sooner or later.
At this point, what's their excuse? They're still complaining about not having labor, or
Just getting the contractors back.
wasn't part of the at-risk portion of this that they had the crew to take care of those things?
Well, it'll reach a point that if they can't get the contractors back, then they'll do it themselves, yes.
Any other questions? I'd like to personally thank Monty, because Monty spends a lot of time working on this and trying to help us make sure it was right. So kudos to him. We appreciate you doing that. I'll entertain a motion to approve the construction updates.
So moved.
Thank you, Joanna. Got a second?
Second.
Jim, thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the construction update. All in favor? That's everyone. Mr. Harvey, Mr. Ryan, budget update.
Thank you. If you take a look at page 44 in your packet, this has an overview of what we'll talk about this evening. Excuse me, I want to thank Tom and Shelley. They did most of the heavy lifting in this and put things in place. But I think it speaks to your revenue adjustments at this point are relatively minimal. The ones that are there based on bond issues and also local connectivity, ESSER, high needs funds and things like that. So there's been a team effort in these. In fact, in the high needs fund, Nicole was able to help out on that portion of it. So if you take a look beyond the sale of the bonds, the ESSER money, you had an adjustment in the food service budget. When that was put together, we weren't for sure whether or not DESI would continue to food would be paid for through DESI for the students.
Sorry, hold on one second, I can't hear you.
Sorry. Upstage for the trash.
Sorry.
When the budget was put together with respect to food service, we didn't know whether or not food service would continue to be paid for student lunches or not. The one there, we removed a budget placeholder. For some years, $475,000 or a number was put in for student activity revenue. In much discussion, we feel like it's more pertinent to pull that number out. It was used as a placeholder. We hope over the next year or two to begin to drill down and come up with an actual number that we feel more comfortable with, rather than just put a placeholder in the budget as a lump sum. I think those are really the only highlights there. On the flip side of that, most of those things that were adjusted in revenue required an adjustment in expenditure. For example, when the district made the initial budget, salaries were put in as district paid salaries. When we got to the point where ESSER monies could be released, then ESSER monies were replaced with district monies, vice versa. So at that point, the coding and amendments and adjustments needed to be made to cover those ESSER funds or the government funds. Same thing with the sale of bonds. We anticipated that happening, but that wasn't necessarily in the initial budget. So we got to that point and that was put in. So that's pretty much what you're looking at with respect to the expenditure side. When you do go through the spreadsheet, Shelley was good enough to put that in there with the red and the black. So on the revenue side, the red is going to show increased revenue, and the opposite then on the expenditure side.
The red is a decrease.
Right.
Yeah. The black is an increase.
I get that backwards. That's not very good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
So just a question about the removing the placeholder. So how is that recognized on the other side?
With the individual,
So by actual activity rather than just a lump?
just a lump sum. Yeah, that's what we're gonna try to work towards, to
Okay.
determine, can each SE account determine what their actual revenue might be? We're kind of looking at trends over the year rather than
Just guessing.
Yeah, because I don't know that that 475 is really tied to anything tangible.
Right. Because that would be all like student fees that they pay,
Mhm.
that they pay in.
Yeah, the,
Okay.
you know, all individual student activity accounts, football,
Okay.
band, all those things.
Okay. And I imagine that having those individual lines will help each activity to better plan for the year or to project the actual costs of the activities that they're doing. And then, just out of curiosity, who was responsible for writing for a grant?
For the technology grant,
Uh-huh.
that's Ryan Word.
Great. I know we heard about that, so.
And then Tom took care of several other grants in the process.
Sure.
Awesome. Any other questions? Entertain a motion to approve the budget revision number 3 as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Joel.
Second.
Thanks, Lonnie. Everybody get a vote? Public? All in favor? That's excellent, thank you. And the staff benefits update. And this is Reinhold and Ms. Reinhold and Ms. Huffman.
Hi. So Mrs. Hampton, Mr. Huffington, and Mr. Harvey have been in talks with CBIZ over the past few weeks about our insurance premiums and what that's looking like for the district for the upcoming year. So we have some preliminary numbers to go over. So our current overall loss ratio is at 102%. This is an increase of 20.9% from last year. The district did ask United Healthcare to look at an additional month to see if that would lower our loss ratio. Unfortunately, it did not. It actually increased to 106.8%, which would be an increase of 26.1% for the year. So United Healthcare is actually using the 102% for our premiums to negotiate at this time. The loss period that they were using is December 1st, 2020 to November 30th, 2021. The original calculated increase to the premiums is at a 13.5%. The renewal is now at 8.4%, I'm sorry. We are still working on getting that lower. Last year, we had four large claims at $471,223. A portion of those claims is due to COVID. So in 2020, our COVID claims was $387,880. The potential impact to the budget from our current year to 2020-23 with this current 8.4% is $144,650. The dental plans are not changing. They were locked in for 2 years. The vision plans are renewing at 2.5% increase. The new rate does not affect the budget because that's an employee-only expense. The district is still working with Dave Johnson from CBIZ to lower those rates. So at this time, we don't have final numbers. We're hoping to get that by the end of this week. Dave Johnson will be at the April 18th board meeting to present a package to the board. So that way you guys can review it and vote on what you would like to move forward with. Benefits Direct will actually be in the district for open enrollment. So what they're going to do is they're going to be here to talk to our staff in person. So our goal is to actually have every staff member review their current benefit plan, either in person, virtually, or by the call center, to go ahead and decide what they want to move forward with for the next year. Benefits Direct is also working on a hospital indemnity supplemental plan. And with this plan, if we approve it and we move forward with it, it will actually allow us to drop the administrative fees that we're being charged, which is approximately $6,100 a year. So that's a savings back to the district. So by the end of this week, we would like to send out letters of intent to the certified staff. We do have We don't have all the numbers in place, and we still have a lot of preliminary numbers that we need to work with. But with those letters of intent, we would like to look at what our base increase is gonna be to the salary as well.
Say that last part. So putting a number in the letters of intent?
A potential number.
And are you presenting a potential number for the base increase this evening, or?
No. No, we don't, without the health insurance numbers, that's gonna have such a large impact on our budget. We have some numbers we'd like to target, but we don't have anything for approval tonight.
Okay, so you can't really include that, though, it would be the potential increase?
Well, if we just stress its potential, we could. I know that's an issue for staff.
Right.
You know, so we want to try and give them as much information as we possibly can.
Sure,
But we need health insurance numbers, it's a big number, so
yeah.
we're trying to get as much information first.
Okay. So when's the last time the district, and it may be different in the district versus in my world, but that you went out for a full rebid of health insurance? Is that something that's an option?
That is something that, and please help me out if I'm leaving something out or misspeaking, but CBIZ, they have set that out. Just last year, they sent it out to multiple companies. Some refused to bid. Some came back with higher premiums, and they've continued with United Health. That's what CBIZ does.
So they're a broker.
But did they do the full rebid where all employees fill out a questionnaire that gives a better sense of who the companies are bidding on?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And it may be different within districts too.
They even reached out to, I believe, one consortium, is that correct? And they didn't respond back, but a couple, for example, Blue Cross Blue Shield didn't bid, but a couple other ones.
Yeah. And is there only one primary plan, or are there several to choose from?
There's 4 options in there.
With high deductibles as options?
The base plan is, right now it's a $3,000 deductible that the district pays for the employee. And right now, I think it's 7, what's the number? I'm sorry.
Currently, $681.35
But anticipated.
would be $746 and some change.
746.
That's for, what is that?
That's the base plan for all employees,
Which is an HSA.
each person per month,
With the $3,000.
with the $3,000. So we're trying to be creative with looking at different options within our plans, looking at different levels in our plans, trying to come up with different cost-saving measures, and that's how we got from the 13% down to 8.4.
Sure.
With some of those, and there's a few more cost-saving measures we're looking into. So we've had lengthy discussions with CBIZ.
Yeah. Well, I'm just wondering, because, you hear more about high deductible plans with an HSA benefit match, as well as using sort of primary care, like a Spire Care, those kinds of things, as sort of full onset. And I just didn't know like where they went. And we just recently rebid everything, but we did it where every employee had to fill out a sort of a history form so that there was a better sense. But I guess, it's different everywhere. 8.4 it feels high, but it's really not. And that's crazy, but
Last year, we were at 4.5.
yeah.
Due to the size of the group and their formula, they don't do the individual surveys.
They won't do it.
If you're self-insured, they might, because then they could look at a higher potential out-of-pocket for district.
Right.
Because the formula UHC uses, they probably only use it against you, because we don't have a credible book of business as far as number of lives.
How long has the district been with CBIZ as a broker?
At least, and this is from what the CBIZ told me, at least 15 years. I think Dr. Haley was the superintendent at the time.
I got to imagine it's not So it's not like buying your car insurance, there's not 50 different companies that'll write this type of insurance.
There's quite a few.
Are there?
Yeah.
What point do we entertain other brokers? I mean, I'm not saying they're doing a bad job, but I mean.
Well, the
to
drawback
make
is
sure that we're.
it's a 90-day window from July 1. So you have to have this set by basically April 1st.
Yeah, it's a little late to do a new broker probably.
Keep that in mind for next year.
But you're still looking at other opportunities, there may be other opportunities to lower that
Yes.
again.
Has the district been with United for some time too,
Yes.
like as their provider?
Mhm.
I mean, I'm going on my 4th year, we have our 3rd provider.
That's a rough.
Well, we save money.
I know, but that's still rough. At what cost?
Almost $200 per employee.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So I just want to follow up as to what's being, you're hoping to send something out to staff. I'm just trying to get a sense of, is there something going out or not? Or is there something we have to do? Or is it going to be delayed or?
No, our plan is Friday's April 1st. We wanted to discuss with the board first, and but with the health insurance numbers, we anticipated maybe a 6 to 8% increase, but with it initially being 13%, we've been working really hard to try and bring that number down. So we really need health insurance numbers before we can get a hard number, and budget revision 3, thanks to Shelley and Mark. So we would like to we'd like to give our staff, as much information as we can. So that is important to us. We are aware of that.
Yeah.
So, but we at the same time, we don't want to give it an accurate number. So we want to make sure we get the best number we
Still didn't answer my question. So, I mean, you're hoping that on Friday you can give them a sense of this is what your increase
Correct.
is being proposed to look at.
can. Correct. We anticipate everyone being allowed to move a step on the salary schedule,
Yeah.
and then adding a particular number to the base
Okay,
by Friday is kind of a target number.
okay.
You're just gonna present that as this is what we will be presenting to the board.
This will be very much a preliminary projected number. Nothing set in stone until the June board meeting where the budget's approved by the board, is the way that'll be presented.
Okay,
So an initial number. We'd like to at least give them an idea so they're not
yeah.
in the dark.
And are we seeing the preliminary budget in April or May?
April, we'll get at least a preliminary.
Okay.
We're gonna get through revision 3 first.
Okay,
We'll have a preliminary budget. It's just, so many things are still up in the air. The county still hasn't got back to us on assessed valuation, new construction. We're still waiting for those kind of numbers. So,
because one thing we haven't seen yet that will help as we're talking these through is just where we are in actual spending. So we've seen the budget revision 1, 2, now 3, but like I couldn't tell you, like, are we off? Are we under? Are we on?
the last, when we reviewed budget revision 3, we were finishing up the 3rd quarter. We were approximately when we looked at the numbers, we were 70% through our budget, and we were at 68.1% expenditures. That I know.
So there's not really a margin in there.
Correct. But we're also, our first true payroll comes out in September, which is the 3rd way through. So we're actually at 50% of the way through our payroll, but we're 75% of the way through the fiscal
Yeah.
year.
And since the budget revision hasn't actually hit, the ESSER 3 realization on the budget isn't reflected because you're using it all for payroll.
Correct.
So it's a little confounded then. So there's actually, you're probably under, but then those ESSER dollars are going away.
Correct.
They're not
It's
a
one-time.
continued revenue. Okay. Just trying to figure out what's gonna be flying when.
Any questions, comments? Thank you, Carrie. Entertain a motion to approve the staff benefits update as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Joanna. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as listed. Thank you, Sue. Have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Well,
Questions? Comments?
I want to make a motion to pull out Hollis and Miller and J. Dunn's invoices to be held. We'd like to approve them, but hold them until we have a meeting Thursday to go over a bunch of changes. And would like to have that. We'd wait till actually pay them until after that meeting.
I have a motion to pull out the Allison Miller and J.D. Dunn pay applications to approve but hold payment until after the Thursday meeting. What outcome of the Thursday meeting do we need in order for that to happen? What do we want from them? So I just want to be clear. I agree with you. I think we need to do this.
What do we need for them?
What has to happen in the Thursday meeting for us to go ahead and pay? Or you just- That's what I want to
That's a good question. Give us a bunch of money back? No. We just have a number of questions about some of the change orders that are been written up that we have questions about, the dollar amounts of them. They're holding retainage, or at least Dunn is holding retainage on the contractors that are in question, but some of them are just a little bit different than others, and not enough money on some of the contractors that we're questioning, that sort of thing.
Sure. I guess my question would be if we say to delay it till after Thursday and then you come out of that meeting and we don't feel good about it, what do we do then? Do we want to approve it, or do we just want to not approve it and then we have to have a special meeting to approve it if the meeting goes well?
Dunn, most of the stuff on Dunn's estimate this month is due because of phase 2 general conditions, bond insurance, and then there's about half of it is contractors' pay estimates on phase 1. So that it's due. We just would like to have some kind of leverage, I guess is what I'm trying to tell you.
Right. And I guess that's what I'm asking. Would it be better to just not approve those at all, and then if we have to?
Well, I don't want to have to wait till the next month, assuming that everything goes all right. We have a decent meeting on Thursday,
So would your motion be to hold them to verify the invoice, and then if the invoice isn't correct, they would have to resubmit for the next, but if they verify the invoice to your satisfaction, it could be paid?
Well, that's the problem. These invoices that they're invoicing for right now are accurate. It's just some portion of it is retainage that we're questioning, but it's just a small portion of it, so.
Do you want to just approve the invoice minus the retainage? So a portion of it could be, or you just don't want to have to? I'm just trying to figure out how to do it so that.
So that it makes, yeah. I mean, I'm comfortable with not approving it at all, and if we have to come back to approve it, if the meeting goes well, you can tell the board didn't approve to pay the invoices. So you have the best sense of how this is going.
Well, the problem is what is on this particular estimate for Dunn particularly is valid, is doable, whatever. I just want a little leverage.
Sure.
So, I mean, to say that this money is not due to them right now that's not correct. It is.
Could it just be that we're moving to delay payment? Not 30
Yeah.
days, but 2 weeks?
No, basically less than a week, because we're meeting Thursday.
I just want to be clear in what we're doing. I don't disagree with you. I want to be clear in how we write this up and how we vote on it that makes sense, so that we don't wind up with a situation where we approved it technically and then we come out of that meeting and don't get it resolved, and then we've already approved it, and then we lose the leverage, like you said.
Is there any scenario that we wouldn't pay them?
It's the timing of the payment more than,
Right.
Yeah, it's timing more than anything. But yes, there is a scenario that we might pay it, because if we found enough problems, that's not highly likely, but. How about this? How about we approve Dunn's and take Miller House and Miller's off completely?
Okay. And if the meeting goes well, then we will have to re-meet to.
Well, we're having an early meeting next month anyway,
Yeah.
because of the.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the extra meeting. I just want to make sure we're on the same page, yeah.
I mean, we're meeting early, he's only,
Hmm?
and since we are meeting earlier, I mean, you could technically just hold both until after, to be approved at the next meeting.
We could.
Are there any contractual problems with that? That you're aware of?
Nothing I'm aware of.
What was the invoice date?
March. It's on page,
March 23rd.
Oh, they just submitted it,
When was it submitted?
14th. March 14th. I mean, we'd still be
So
within
we'd
30
we'd be a
days.
little over 30 days. I'm okay with pulling Allison
Just
and
hold
Jay
them.
Dunn both out.
Yep.
And then we'll have an early meeting and let us know how it goes. Obviously, things could be going better, so.
It's not like we haven't had to wait for them and stuff.
So we're approving the consent agenda
Consent.
minus,
Minus items 3 and 4, Hollis and Miller and J.D. Dunn pay applications. I originally had Sue and Tim. Are you guys okay with that?
Yeah.
Any other questions? I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items minus items 3 and 4, Hollis and Miller invoice, so on and so forth, and J.E. Dunn pay application number 14. All in favor? That's everyone. Copier bids, Mr. Word.
Exciting stuff.
on page
7.
78.
All right, thanks for the time. I'll try to be brief. As you know, we are due for new copiers. Our current background on what we have now is we're currently in a contract with Xerox. We've been with Xerox for 20 plus years. Xerox has been great to us. We've had probably the same technician for 15 years. Works great with our office staff, comes in, always reliable. So I have nothing bad to say about Xerox. Xerox has been great. But if you ask the teachers currently on how copiers are going, that's a sore subject. As you know, we're in the final year of our contract, so our machines are completely outdated. They have been through a lot. They survived the pandemic where we were printing weekly booklets for the kids by the truckload every week. So they survived that. They have done their job by far and done it well. So, but the machines are definitely outdated and we're due for a refresh. So what we've done, our request for proposal is what we asked for is currently just exactly what we have now. We didn't see the need for more machines. We did see the need for possibly adding color machines. So we asked for an option that is currently just like how we have now with 16 large office copiers, 5 desktop small copiers that hold our fax machines, and then we currently have 1 color copier that's in the central office. So we asked for one option like that, and then another option for possibly putting color into each building, putting 1 color machine into each building. The only downfall is that is color copiers are a lot more expensive, so we got to worry about overages on that. So we reached out and we got bids back from Canon, Marco, Sumner One, and Xerox. I won't bore you with all the numbers and the cost per sheet, but Canon came in with their option, and they're all significantly lower than what we're paying. We're currently paying $8,800 a month. Canon came in at 5,100, which is good. Their copiers are a little, the numbers of what they produce per minute are a little lower than what we have now. We have 55 copies per minute, and they were offering 40 or 51. So it's kind of lower than what we want, but the price is still good. Marco offered Sharp copiers, very good copy. High speed, 60 page per minute copies, which is good. The price looks good. We also received one from Sumner One. They gave us 3 options. A Canon option, which surprisingly their Canon option was better than the one from Canon. Their copier was better and the prices was lower. So they also quoted Konica Minolta. They came in at 4,700 and 4,800 with the color option, so still great prices. And Kyocera option, which is probably the best price we've seen. Their copies are 60 page per minute, so higher copy page per minute, and a color option that is only $100 more, or probably, no, it's $70 more. And then with that, Sumner also offered a HP latex printer, which can print out like stickers and like these banners that you see on the walls, these banners. So we thought those would be good for like a fundraisers if we wanted to do those. And then we also got back our quote from Xerox. Xerox was, they did throw in one more copier, so they offered up 17 full large scale copiers, just in case for growth. But their quote came in at 88 or 89.89, which is $100 more than what we're paying now. So it's too bad to see that come in like that. Checked around through other districts. A bunch of other districts are using, I got a lot of people who have the same disdain for copiers right now because the supply chain issue, there was ink issues getting ink to people. So there's been a lot of frustration with copies. So a lot of districts gave me good feedback. Green Valley, for instance, is using Sumner One as well, who we should recommend, or we are recommending that we go with. The price is just right. The support option that they're offering is good. So Hickman Mills uses them as well. And so right now we're looking at probably around $270,000 in savings to what we're paying now. So I would recommend we go with the Kyocera option, with the option, probably option 2 with color in each building. I still need to get back with him and see what kind of, if we do end up going color in each building and the price gets out of hand, the overages get out of hand, seeing if we can change that. So I just want to try to get numbers dialed down to specifics, but I think we would be happy with Sumner One.
Are these prices identical to the ones that were brought forward earlier in the
They're a little
year?
lower, yeah.
They're lower.
And then Canon said their prices at April 1st are going up, so we would be locked in at those prices until April 1st.
And then aren't there ways with color copiers to make sure that the default print option on computers in classrooms is black
Yes.
and white, so
Yep.
that there you have to
Yep.
actually manually
And there's
change
a
over?
thing that can pop up and say, are you sure you want to print this in color? Yeah, we can add that, yep.
I know.
I mean, is there a way to limit that? I mean,
To limit color, yes, for
yeah,
sure.
Okay. I'm sure everybody'd like to have it in color all the time.
Yes, yeah.
One thing that Kyocera does that no other manufacturer does, they do tiered color. And so if the page has 20% or less, it's actually at a lower cost. Then it goes up to 40%, it's a medium price, and then over 40 is the full color sheet. And no other manufacturer does that.
Yeah,
So with Kyocera, you're actually getting better bang for your buck, where like if one page has like just one color line, everybody else is gonna charge you the full color cost per page. And Kyocera does not do that.
Yeah, when I spoke to Green Valley, they're with Sumner One, but they were with Konica Minolta, and they're switching to Kyocera.
And that's because it includes ink, that's why you do the cost estimates,
Mhm.
so they come out and replace and
Mhm.
replenish the
Yeah.
ink and toner.
So On the one you recommended, option 2, so the annualized savings are $54,000 a year, so over the
Yes.
course of a 5-year contract, $250,000. Take it. That's huge.
Yeah,
Where do you guys put the fancy copier at?
it's in our office, of course. Yeah, they got some pretty cool stuff that this is the salesman brought over stickers and all sorts of cool stuff that they can print out.
So rather than do a cooler paint.
Yeah. That was what he found online, so.
We've looked at this too, like one thing you can do is so like all the senior banners they do, if you actually were to do these in-house, I mean, just a tremendous savings just for that alone. I mean, it's crazy what parents pay. I mean, you know.
70.
Yeah, this is their small, I mean, it's 60, they'll do a 64-inch banner, so those, I think the ones that they're printing and putting on the tents out and stuff, I mean, those are large banners, so yeah.
Awesome.
Are they?
And they cost $35 to print each.
35 to print each. Any other
I move to
questions?
approve the recommendation.
Thank you, Joanna. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jimmy. I have a motion and second to approve the copy of bids and the selection as presented.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Just to be clear, we're doing Sumner 1, option 2
Yes.
for the Kyle series
Sumner 1, option 2.
on the Kyle series machine. Not Conoco Minerva.
All in favor? Thank you. We need to change our April board meeting.
Yes, traditionally, we have board meetings on the fourth Monday of the month. With the board elections coming on April 5th, we'd like to move that up just so we can reorganize our board a little bit more timely manner. So I'd like to request we move that to Monday, April 18th, 1 week sooner, so we can do a reorganizational meeting after the election.
Mhm. It's state statute, you have to do it within
You have
2
to do it
weeks
2
of
weeks
election.
of your election.
Days, I think, yeah.
Yep. So moved.
Thank you, Joanna. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Jim. All in favor? That's everyone.
And then just on a flipboard note, just fees and charges around the districts, students could accumulate fees and charges for various things, art class, Chromebooks, things such as that. And what we found is it's very difficult to track students as they move from building to building throughout the district. So we just want to adjust that a little bit. So we'd like to try and address those within the building that the student is in. So what we found is maybe the student had a fee in primary and then it wasn't being addressed till they got into high school. And it just, a lot of extra time, a lot of extra energy, and then the parent may call and say, what's this $10 art fee? Well, that's from when they were in kindergarten, but they're getting ready to graduate. So so we want to try and clean that up as best we can. So we'd like to try and address those while students are in each building. The administrators, we're working on a system to run a report each month, communicate that with families, and get those taken care of before they change buildings, just to clean up the process a little bit, is all that is.
Is part of that so that they can't enroll for the next school year until the fees are paid? Are you able to do that?
You can't go to third grade and pay your art fee.
I would prefer if we didn't go to that extent. I would really prefer if we just take care of these fees ahead of time, but yes. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a recommendation though, because one thing that I don't know how this is done, but it seems like the Chromebook fees come out like in the middle of the school year.
Yep.
So that's something that can be done at the beginning of the school year, like when you're enrolling.
Yes.
And could it, I don't know if it can be automated through RevTrack or.
Yes, we'll discuss that when we open enrollment. We're gonna open enrollment approximately July 15th this year. That will be assessed at that time, correct.
I have a motion to approve the new procedures for fees and charges.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jamie. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? That's everyone. is everything I see on the agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and we've got to go back into closed session for a couple items. Thank you, Monty.
Second.
Thank you, Amber. All in favor? Thank you, everyone, for being here.